Time.
50 card ahead.
Yeah, and then you
At least.
shame everybody up.
Well, also.
It's a very comfortable press.
We'll go ahead and get this started.
I know everything, but you.
From 10:30 until it's 10:30, from 10:30 till noon today, we're looking at the resolution. We're looking at the Transforming Age Skybridge proposal, both the public benefit package and the updated design of the actual bridge, which was part of what you had requested at your previous review of the project. Why don't we'll go ahead and start with introductions of commissioners, both here, and we have 2 commissioners attending virtually, and we'll also have introductions from the presentation team and the people in the room. Zubin, why don't you start us out?
Yeah, hi, Zubin Rao, Architect Commissioner.
Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin and I'm the Get Engaged Commissioner.
Hi, I'm Molly Spitalnik. I'm the Urban Design Commissioner, and I'll be taking the action today.
Good morning, Ryan Markham. I'm the Engineering Commissioner.
Phoebe?
Phoebe Bogert, Landscape Architect Commissioner.
Thanks, Phoebe. And Kevin?
Good morning. I'm Kevin O'Neill. I'm the Transportation Planning Commissioner and Vice Chair.
Mark, do you start with introduction?
Mark Brands, Site Workshop Landscape Architects, representing Transforming Age, the applicant.
I'm Ryan Miyahiro with Inco Moisen Architects.
Nori Sato, artist on the team.
We have a number of people in the room today. Amy, why don't you start us off?
Amy Gray, South Department of Transportation. Hey everyone, Holly Golden. I am Elaine's attorney working with the applicant. I'm Rebecca Pugh, landscape architect working with the design team.
Deborah Cohen, Task Force, Skybridge.
I'm Doug Palmer. I'm a Skyline resident and the chair of the resident task force for the Skybridge.
I'm Bud Barber. I'm also on the resident task force for Skybridge.
I'm Jim Devane. I'm a Skyline resident on the Skybridge committee.
I'm Lourdes Demain. I'm a resident of Skyline. My husband, Jill.
I'm Joshua Gahn, staff staff.
Kathy Jaramillo, resident of First Hill and a member of First Hill Improvement Association.
Thanks. And we have a number of people who are attending online. Welcome. Mark, I think, we've got you until noon. I think we have about a half-an-hour presentation today. We do have a number of people here today. I'm assuming that some of you may want to make public comment. If that's the case, we have 2 minutes per person. And I'd encourage you to, because you're from the same community, if one person could speak on your behalf, that would be great. Mark.
Super. Thank you very much. It's really good to be back in front of you on the Skybridge. So today we're going to ask for your approval to move forward. We are very excited to bring the package, the legislation in front of council, hopefully very early next year. We realize they have a packed schedule this year, but we really are trying to line things up. And as you'll see, we've really advanced bridge design as well. So we're lining things up for an implementation some point midpoint next year. So a little history here. We met with you back in April, and that was our merit or public trust meeting. We had tremendous support at that time. You asked us to come back and update the bridge. At the time, we shared with you a more organic design, and you asked us to actually simplify it and bring it in context with the adjacent buildings. And Ryan's going to share that with you. And then he also asked us about our public benefit package to come back and expand on it. I'll just note that the public benefit package, even since our very first attempt, which precedes, I think, this whole commission back in 2019, was really, really well supported. So we really have been evolving a public benefit package that has been supported by commission for quite some time. It's really rooted in our community. And very importantly, First Hill Improvement Association, which is a tremendous community organization in our city. We did have subcommittee meetings. Several of you were involved in that. And a couple of comments that came out of that after reviewing the bridge at that point was to consider accessibility and then also look at really bring the art back to the ground plane. Again, the time Nori was thinking about bringing it up onto the bridge. And so you'll see her work and how we've done that. But I think you're very supportive that time too, the direction we're bringing the Sky Bridge. So we have been doing a lot of work between that last meeting, the committee meeting, including with the Skyline residents, which you see in force behind me, been actively involved in the bridge design and the benefit proposals. They also have two really great organizations or committees. They're a very active group. We've got our committee, and so we've got Nori meeting with them, and then we've also got a group called Lake Bloomers. They have a couple of master gardeners, which is an awesome resource that we've tapped into and continue to work with. First Hill Improvement Association is, again, a great organization. They have a new leader with Ellen Green. She is unfortunately not here. She's in Montreal with her family. We have two projects with her, not only a wayfinding project that we're broken into, but they are also leading now the Park to Park loop, which we thought we might do before, but we all agreed that it was better positioned in the community leading that charge. Joshua can speak to that. I think Ian's online as well with Urban Design Department at SDOT. They've been involved in those meetings, and it's really intertwined with our interpretive wayfinding package. So I'll really point out how those come together. But the board has been briefed on a number of occasions, and we are working directly with their Urban Design Public Space Committee as a stakeholder group within the Park to Park loop. And again, the wayfinding package and the pedestrian enhancements that we'll share with you are a part of that. With SDOT, we specifically have met with Ben Roberts. Ryan will point out the two trees that we are going to do some pruning on. That's going to happen this winter and prep for the bridge. That's the plan anyway. It's the best time to prune the trees. So Ben is on board. We've of course been meeting with Amy and then Jackson Keenan-Cook, who is a transportation planner, and they've been advising on anything we do in the right of way and making sure that what we say and share with you today is what we can actually do within, as approved by that department. We met with Beverly and then Jackson again to give us a bit more feedback on the benefit package, which was great. Again, they gave us a few bits of advice to move forward. And then we've also been meeting in tandem with the urban design folks with wayfinding, Seamless Seattle Wayfinding Program, which you guys know a lot about now with our other project that's been in front of you. And so it's really important because we're talking about a neighborhood signage package, and this is something that is unfolding for SDOT. So they're really trying to bring that into their family of signage. And so our wayfinding, interpretive wayfinding package is really part of that. So it's great to have them partnered with us. And then just shout out to Joshua, who's been attending the meetings, a walkthrough, and we had a community meeting last week. He's been part of that discussion, so he is hearing firsthand about what we're doing, what the community is asking for. So 2 bits today. I'm going to hand it over to Ryan in a second, talk about bridge design. He's going to go through existing conditions, talk about that tree I mentioned, but then also talk about the Sky Bridge design. We'll take a deep dive. They're now in the design development, so it's pretty far along. It's taking on a lot of the comments, all of the comments that you've made before, and then I'll go through the public benefit package, and then on, as we always do, on a matrix that shows you specifically how we've quantified things. And I'm going to hand it over to Ryan.
All right, thanks, Mark. So the first part here is just kind of a recap for you, everyone. We've all seen this package several times. So this is the Skyline campus. The 2 towers on the left side of the street is Olympic Tower, and on the right side of the street is Cascade Tower. And this is just another view looking north to the 2 sides of the campus. And this is a close-up of the Olympic Tower, the corner and the entry. And on the left, you can see it's just kind of where the Sky Bridge is going to come in. This is Cascade Tower on the other side.
Yeah, the bridge will come in approximately there.
Yep.
And I'm just going to back up real quick. These are the 2 trees that we're going to end up pruning. You're going to see that. So that's the wintertime view, which is great because you really see the branching habits. I just want to point out the Sky Bridge is up there quite a ways. It's 4th level. So wherever my cursor is, that's where it's going to touch down on that 4th level. And you can see it's way high up in the canopy. So you're really in a bird's eye view up there when you're in the Sky Bridge.
And then this is also similar to, these were from the previous presentation just to reorient us. This is a site plan showing Olympic Tower and Cascade Tower and the location of the bridge. This is the functions on the 4th floor of both towers. Just kind of to show where the functions are and what's the program. So it's common, it comes into the common areas on both sides of the project. This is a diagram of the section of where it's coming in on the 4th floor.
Again, you get an idea of it. The bridge is really up there in the canopy of the tree.
And this is just superimposed kind of the location of the proposed bridge in both directions on 8th Avenue.
Brian, I'll speak to this one on the left. So that you're seeing actual pruning cuts that we have framed with Ben Roberts, and he is conditionally approving. We have a certified arborist that's going to come out. Becca behind me has been working with them to get a quote on that. Ben would like us to do this in the winter time to prep for it. We of course have to be certain we're going to be able to do this with council, get the legislation through. So we're really trying to parallel that. And with the legislation, to make sure we get somebody out there. It's the best time to prune the tree. When it's dormant, it's sucked all its energies back down into the roots and it's not leafed out. And on the right, of course, you see the other two trees. They're much smaller, so we're actually above them and not affecting them. And they will have to be pruned as they mature away from the bridge itself. But you can see where it's connecting into that common area that I mentioned.
And so this is just high-level bridge design evolution that we've gone through. I'll talk a little bit about these and then we'll go into them in more detail. But the first one was standing out versus blending in. So originally the Sky Bridge, we thought of it as a piece of art, sculptural piece of art that people would be drawn to and attract attention. So we've moved our focus away from that. Now we want it to, the feedback we got from everyone is it really wants to blend in with the neighborhood and the existing buildings and really move the focus of the art down to the street or to activate the street. So that's what we did. That you'll see that design evolution. We've also simplified the form. Before it was a sort of a cylinder with a lot of structure and a lot of detail on it. We've simplified that. We've increased the transparency. That was another comment. So you can see, we'll show you with as much glass, as much vision glass as we possibly can get. And even the structure, we've reduced the structure down to get more transparency. We are matching the materials to the existing tower. All the materials will be the same to really blend in. And then another big one is our structural engineer is the structural engineer for both towers. So in their investigation, figured out we can utilize 2 big support columns and get rid of the exterior support column we were going to have. Originally, that was going to come down to the ground. So now there's no support columns going down to the street. So this is an updated elevation. As you can see, we've got as much glass as we can. We've actually done some preliminary energy models to make sure the new energy code, we can actually meet the new energy code with the vision glass and the insulation. And I think the biggest change that we had here is there's a little bit of slope on between the two towers, a 3.5% slope. So we looked at the structure and we started with the most efficient structural design, which is the top one. And so there's kind of equal, there's a support on one side, a support you're going to have in the street on the right side, and you take sort of equal height, width, and you divide that across. That's the most efficient structure, but it does have a lot of steel in it. So we looked at the more transparent structural design. It's a similar concept, but larger top and bottom members and spaced out farther so that there's more transparency. And so this is a 3D. And then the one on the right, you can see we've eliminated the 2 columns that we were originally going to have to put in there. This is a section And it's kind of to illustrate, there is a floor level change between the two towers. So we've done as low slope as possible. We talked with the resident task force. What's the best option? Do you want some flat areas and then sloped areas, a little bit steeper in flat areas? And the recommendation was the lowest slope continuous is the easiest to navigate with any walkers and assistants for walking. So we put the benches in there for people to rest. We have handrails, people to hold on to. We'll have lighting and slip resistant flooring.
And the gradient is like 3.5%.
3.5%.
3.5%. So it's well below the 5% tipping point for ADA. I was mentioned that a lot of the residents, if they do have mobility impairment, often have a walker that has a seat in it. And so they have mobility assist with them, or if they may be in a wheelchair. So they have a number of mechanisms they employ as resting points.
And then these are just updated renderings. So you can see we're really kind of matching the existing tower, the materials, the spandrel. We're making as much vision glass as we can. The underneath is a wood panel. It's actually a phenolic panel, but it's matching what is on the Olympic Tower soffits. So this is the same view with the trees. So we wanted to show you without the trees so you can see it with the trees. This is the Cascade Tower. You can see we got rid of the columns, structural columns on the exterior. We will have structure holding up the bridge. So that's that a little bit of, yep, so there's a beam going across there.
That's all in lieu of having the column come down to grade. And then with the canopy.
One more view of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's looking north. And then with the canopy again. And the trees on the right, of course, are going to mature, so this will become more and more obscured for a portion of the year when the trees are leafed out.
And this is just this is the exterior materials. So we're showing that we're really matching the same window systems, same glass and metal panel, but the same soffit materials as Olympic Tower. Close up of the materials.
Yeah, with soffit.
Oh yeah, there it is. We're high pressure laminate.
Okay, we'll move on to the public benefit piece. We have 4 benefits. Open space activation, so that's landscape improvements at the ground plane. Public art that works in tandem and integrated with that. So those work very closely together with Nori's artwork. And then we have pedestrian enhancements down to 8th and Marion, block away. And then we end on the interpretive wayfinding signage. Again, the 4 items here. So mostly right on our frontage, but also off-site. And the wayfinding, interpretive wayfinding element is something you'll see that actually can travel well off our site as we design it and then prototype it. These are all very much rooted in, embedded with Brookfield Improvement Association. And that yellow line is a very important line because it's part of that park loop, which is their key initiative right now. So start with the open space activation. And these are improvements to the 8th Avenue setback and adjacent 8th Avenue right-of-way. So together they form a room, sort of parklet, if you will. Includes public art plantings, lighting, and furnishings. We've got the Skyline Residents Committee that we've been working with, and Bridge Committee specifically, Late Bloomers, the art committee that I mentioned to you, and adjacent state community stakeholders. So these are adjacent property owners. Artists, Norisato, of course, next to me here. And then the FIA Urban Design and Public Space Committee. So this again is acting as kind of a stakeholder group for us. We share everything with them in transparency to get their feedback. So our deliverables is the design package, in parallel with the bridge and then construct them. They'll probably follow the construction of the bridge because of the disruption the bridge is going to cause. In fact, that setback becomes quite critical for lay down and as well as a street use permit that will be required for the package. This is the setback that we're talking about. And I'm going to zoom into this. So Cascade Tower on the top of the page and Olympic Tower on the bottom. It also has an ordinance. There was an allegation associated with the construction of the Cascade Tower. Be very careful to vet this with Amy and Beverly City. That has a PUDA agreement with it. So there are particular things that are associated with the seating, the lighting. So we have to make sure that we are either maintaining them or enhancing them to respect that ordinance, because we have another ordinance that's going to go on top of that term permit, of course, that we're asking for your approval for today. So it's a 30-foot setback, there's a 6-foot sidewalk, and then there's a very wide verge or planting strip to play with. Maybe a 30-foot curb to curb street. There's the views. One thing I'll point out, upper left, is that we do have ground level residences here. There are 4 of them. We need to respect their privacy. They have these lovely patios outside. On the right of the screen is, you see the CMU block wall with a short guardrail, transparent guardrail on it. So they do have a privacy fence. But again, we need to make sure that we're respecting that, harmonizing with it. The other thing I'll point in the upper left is this deep evergreen hedge row that's kind of gotten out of hand. So we're going to start to eat back at that, claim that space back and share it with the public and create this room. And so 2 sidewalk views. Lower left is looking south. You can actually see just peeking over the top, St. James Terrace, or James Terrace up there, Harbor View. And then, of course, looking the other direction to the north along the sidewalk. So this is the plan. I am preceding Nori, so I'm also going to lean into her work as well. The purple circles on here are key sculptural elements that she will share with you. They have integrated lighting, so they have this kind of diurnal effect at daytime and nighttime. Second component are the art screens. So they're helping to screen the residents where we're taking, scaling, and pushing the landscape, an evergreen landscape back to give us more garden space in the front. That's number 4. We get this perennial landscape beds that we're going to do on both sides of the street. So you really get this impact of like walking into a room. Then we have new furnishing. So we're really expanding on the current ordinance and quadrupling the amount of seating that's out there right now. So really creating more attractive, more diverse range of seating. And integrated into that are some of Nori's elements. So that's where you're getting the true integration as well. And then right from the residents community, it's like, we need some dog pet relief areas. So we're incorporating those with trash and pet bags as well. So really thinking about the practical things this right away. Everything will be maintained by Transforming Age. And so majority of this is on their property, that deep setback, and then their landscape improvements, which are really maintenance improvements in the right of way. This is a section through, so street on the left and then Cascade Tower on the right. You see the private terraces, that screen wall. Here's the additional screen. And then it does then allow for the space to do the artwork and additional landscaping and seating. And we are maintaining the existing lights. They're pretty good condition. They're these Louis Polson fixtures that are nicer for maintaining those. And then just to give you a sense of the plant palette we're talking about, really going for seasonality, color, something that's really not out there now, to add this additional layer as an attractive way to activate the right of way itself. And the material palette on the left is the existing brick of the Cascade Tower at the podium level, the sidewalk paving, which is typical 2x2 scored concrete. The art palette color, Nori's really bringing in color to the space, which we think is very helpful, and the neighbor or the residents are very excited about. The bench, the light, the existing light fixture there, the evergreen hedge, and of course the plant palette of the perennials and grasses. So all those come together to create this space, create activation. Okay, right. I let Nori take over here. We're talking, this is a seasoned, a veteran, public art, past member of this commission, knows how to work in public spaces. This is, of course, a private commission in a private space that's publicly accessible. So we have the art committee within that we're working with within Skyline And we are delivering a piece of artwork with the Sky Bridge at the occupant, when we get to TCO level with the Sky Bridge. Nori, I'll get ahead of you.
Okay. So when I do my work, I usually think about concepts first and try to develop, form to follow. And some of the things I was looking at really were that basically the Sky Bridge is a connector between two buildings. And the idea of connection became really important, not only between the two buildings, but really with the neighborhood. And there are quite a few nice walks, I think, between the park to park loop. And this particular block is very verdant and green and really quite attractive already as a place to be, but to really enhance it and just make it much more of a, not just a local attraction, but maybe something that, neighbors from a little further away would also want to come walk with and engage with. So a lot of the work that I wanted to do is to create something that would be attractive, but also to really make sure that it's integrated with what the landscape architecture is as well, and to make it a single piece instead of, an artwork separated from where it's sitting. The idea partly is to make the site legible, not just during the day, but also at night, and to make it someplace where people will want to come and sit and be, even though we're making a sky bridge that in some ways takes certain people off the streets at certain times. The sky bridge, the landscape, I think, will also make it attractive for people to come down there and use it during the day, during good weather, and also for people who are in the neighborhood, who we've also discovered have a lot of dogs. And so we really wanted to make the whole place friendly for dogs as well, and to create something for them. So there's a combination of work that we're doing. Next slide. So this is just an image of a previous artwork, and it gives you a sense of the materials that I'm thinking about, which is perforated and painted aluminum that has been shaped in a variety of ways. And you can see that it's a very kind of beautiful material that acts in a lot of different ways, in that the perforations themselves will have a certain amount of image in them and pattern, and the color will also help. And that, but instead of using it like I did on a previous piece, I'm going to be making some sculptural forms that you can kind of see in abstraction there on the right. And then including some perforated screen for the back of the space that creates kind of a backdrop, as well as a visual security fence. Next. The idea is that these forms will be lit, internally lit, which really creates a different glow at night than during the day. During the day, you'll see the exterior color, but at night, you'll see the interior color as it's lit. So it'll have a different kind of presence. The idea is that we would paint the interior a different color than the exterior. And even though the lighting we're using is white, it'll actually glow with the color of the interior color. So it's a simple way of getting color at night without using complicated lighting, but also a way that we can change the dynamic, because the holes become more visible at night as opposed to the exterior pattern. So it creates a really interesting glowing series of sculptures. Next. And then the screens themselves will also be perforated. I think it'll be important to be able to see through, partly for safety reasons, but also because we're not trying to create a barrier, visual barrier, but we still want to create a visual screen for the residents behind. So the theory is that they will look at the screens and not look beyond, but allow that kind of permeableness of vision to also make sure that people don't hide behind there and create other kinds of danger. Next. So this is a rendering of what we think it'll be, a series of more abstracted forms with images in. So the forms are more abstract, but the patterns will be much more kind of related to this idea of knots and bows, I guess you could say. Bows sounds a little bit dorky, I guess you could say. So the idea is not to really do like bows, like Christmas bows, but to really think about the idea of tying together. And there will at night, these elements will create a nice little spot there as well.
I was pointing out, you can see the light standards that I mentioned are existing, and then all the new seating. Again, we're quadrupling the amount of lineal footage of seating.
And we're working with the idea of curves and as opposed to these kind of rectangular things. And so the landscape follows that as well as the seating.
So this is the view without trees too. So here we
Oh,
are with
that's
trees. There's tremendous canopy out there. So we had to strip it back so you could get that bird's eye
You have to
view.
be a bird to see it.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can
This
also
is the next
imagine,
sky bridge,
right,
maybe.
that we're all birds.
Yeah. So this next view is ground level, and I think gives you an idea again. The existing conditions, you see that light standard, that's the flavor of one of the seats. There's another one that's about 4 feet long, so it's pretty limiting, and you get the idea of the landscape. And then Norelia needs to speak to this one.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that we've really made a much more, I think, attractive and friendly room that will be not only activated by the sculptures, but also by the people and the dogs that will be able to use the space. A lot of color instead of these big bushes that are there right now. It really allows us to take, really to allow the use of the space in a much more interesting way.
You also get a sense of a room here. So we're bookending the street side to kind of create that space. Yeah, whereas now it does bleed out into the street with the parked cars. So you really feel like you've gone into a park room by doing that. Okay. Third public benefit is public enhancements. That's 8th and Marion. It's curb bulbs, curb ramps, and crosswalks. This is really about increasing safety for pedestrians. It's part of the park-to-park loop. So we will complete a street concept plan. I'll show you a 10% drawing in a moment. So it becomes a civic planning project. We're working with the adjacent stakeholders here, which are the property owners, to alert them to this improvement. And then are going to continue to integrate with this into the park-to-park loop with First Hill Improvement Association. So the pink dot down here is the benefit. That's the intersection. The intersection at Columbia and 8th is the upper right photo. That was constructed with the Olympic Tower and is a tremendous improvement at reducing the width of the crossing for pedestrians, striped crosswalks, really calming the traffic down as it runs through here. And I think we described this in detail at the last meeting. At rush hour, it gets pretty crazy around here, trying to get to James, which leads onto the freeway, north and south. And so, which is one of the big reasons that we explained to you the necessity for the sky bridge. So over on the left of the center and then the left are the existing kind of these wide angle shots of the intersection that we're going to improve. And this is our 10% design that we've shared with SDOT. Amy can speak to this at public test comment, agency comment. I mean, it really is about the reduction of those crossings and calming the street down. During this discussion, we had several discussions. Jackson was really generous with this time and was able to run it up to the transportation operations and other departments to make sure that we can do this. He did have us look through. I'm going to show you just real quickly. This is a before, and this is where we're going. To really to reduce the crossing width. So it's a dramatic reduction to give the pedestrians a shorter crossing and create safer. We're not taking any parking away. We're working with the existing street conditions, working with the drainage and everything else. There are very limited utilities that we're affecting here as well. It's really just the storm drainage. One of the things we requested to do, and I'm sort of sharing kind of our homework here, is there is a medical office building that's been long-standing. It's not Polyclinic. I keep forgetting the name of the institution that's in there now. They have a delivery loading dock, which is the lower right. So these are my photos of just analyzing the deliveries. They have box trucks and delivery vans that come through. And it's quite in a garbage truck, of course. So their preferred route exiting, which I watch, is 9th Avenue, which is our arterial. 8th Avenue, although it may be classified as arterial, it's very much a pedestrian street with parked cars. Much more difficult if you're a truck to manage to turn. In fact, you're likely to get more obstacles that direction than the other. So they just want to make sure that we're not preventing deliveries to the existing buildings. And so that's the importance of that study. That really did enable us to propose these bulbs back here. Sorry, to do this whole transformation. Okay, I'm going to end. The final one is on interpretive wayfinding loop. So this is very much up and running, and we are going to develop a concept and a fabrication drawing, so 100% fabrication ready, and then any sign that we come up with, we will actually produce a prototype for First Hill Improvement Association. They then can go on and fund and continue to add signs, as Market the Mohai does, as an example. They did an initial package of signage, and they continue to unfold and look for opportunities as funding becomes available. So that's very much a model for what we're doing. The difference is we now have SDOT that is fully up and running and on their 4th or 5th phase, I think, downtown in the mid of implementing the signage program. But what's new is neighborhoods now are looking at this for these walking loops, which we know that are right of way. It's one of the last areas we can go for open space. 30% of our land mass. So that's a very important thing I think that neighborhoods now are pursuing, as First Hill Improvement Association is with Park to Park Loop. So we continue to work with Joshua and Ian specifically in the right-of-way work, exploring opportunities for coordination and collaboration with SDOT Seamless Seattle. This is important, system standard while maintaining local distinctiveness. This is where we are working with them. And so we have a very seasoned designer with Studio Matthews on board. They did Market the Mohai. You've probably seen their work as it unfolds down the waterfront. It's really important that we have a seasoned designer on board. Personal Improvement Association and the Urban Design Public Space Committee is fully wrapped up into this because this is working directly with the Park to Park loop. This is one of the really key pieces on that loop, in addition to things like the things we're looking at, which are creating parklets, street tree plantings, lighting, intersection improvements, et cetera. So we continue on our outreach within the Park to Park loop, and we pull the wayfinding into that to get out to other stakeholders, condominium owners. There are a number of business developers on the loop that we are trying to pull into the conversation. There are medical institutions, of course, that are all part of that conversation. So to reiterate, our deliverables are to complete the drawings, fabrication ready, and then prototype, fabricate as prototypes and install so that Ellen at First Hill Improvement Association can promote the project itself and fund it. So we've had the Park to Park Loop project has had 2 stakeholder meetings out of 5. We have our 3rd one this month, later this month, or later this month, or no, November, thanks, okay. What you're seeing on the left is the walking tour that we had, identifying opportunities along the loop. And then just last week is a wayfinding focus session that we had with the committee, where we had this big roll plot, and we basically let our fingers do the walking here and look for opportunities, helping us create or evolve our vision for the project itself. So these are the 3 main things that are coming out. It's an invitation to get out and walk. That's really the basis of this. And we used the parks, or FIA did, to really create 2 anchors. First Hill is the destination. It's not just a place to pass through. And we really want to embrace the differences in eccentricity, celebrate a diverse history, a rich history of First Hill. So to that end, what these signs will take several forms. Different to Market the Mohai is that we don't have a lot of pole infrastructure to hang blade signs off. That's the yellow sign on the far left. We do have lots of opportunities for freestanding signs. Those are the middle two. And so we are likely to end up with freestanding signs embedded in the right of way. And then on the ground pavement surface signage as well. So all of those will come together to form our interpretive wayfinding signage. So themes that we're looking at, are historic sites. We have the Sorrento Hotel, St. James, Town Hall, Engine House number 3 at Harbor View, Yesler Terrace, Yesler Hill. There's a whole history there with Henry Yesler Mill, Profanity Hill, of course, where birds walked up to the first hill. So there's a whole history there. And then Peel Hill, we've got all of the medical institutions. And then we've got a couple of historic landmark sites with Stimson Green, Carkeek Mansion, the Ghost House. Possible interpretive things, again, are best views, viewpoints, and vistas. There are surprises along the way, and we want to capture those, what you're seeing. Public artwork. There are surprises and more surprises along the way. The tire treads, which were Nori completed by
Vicky Scurry.
Vicky Scurry. The mural, who I don't know, created at the Yesler Terrace Park. And then the Walk to the Mountains, which is, I worked on that with Gloria Bornstein, that is on 9th Avenue at Harborview. So there are a number of discoveries along the way. There's past and future interpretation, opportunity to acknowledge the indigenous history of the land, but also this context of what was there and what could come. And so there's an exploration or a deeper dive into that. So these are all the themes that we're looking at. And I'm going to stop there because something I talked to Michael about, this is not as far along as I would normally be when I'm in front of you. And as you can see with the sky bridge and with the artwork, the landscape, even the 10% design with the intersection. So I'm going to ask for your support for this. We have a strong design team. We have community process that is really supportive of this and integrated into it. And if anything, I'd ask that if you're going to condition the project, that we come back to a subcommittee. I really want the legislation to start to parallel this, and I know Amy to do her job and to get ready for council early next year. So it's a critical path thing for us. Whereas if you make us come back to full committee, really technically you can't be doing that and working with our team to create the legislation. So I want you to have the confidence in our team that we have, that we're going forward and we're connected with our community to really pull this off. And I know we will. And to that end is our public benefit matrix. Again, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but this is what goes into legislation. A lot of these numbers go into the PUDA agreement in the ordinance. So we have to be very clearly in a proposed benefit that is not code required or mitigated. You all know that. We have an estimated cost there as well that we've been sharing with you from the beginning. And with that, again, thank you very much. It's good to see everybody. We again ask for your support to move this project along. We look forward to your feedback and comments. Thank you.
Mark, I think we want to see, like, maybe bring a site plan or something up that shows all of the, visually shows where all of these things are occurring. The compiled.
Yeah, there's the diagram up front, and I'll bring that one back up.
Amy, did you have any comments on how to ask on?
Sure. Probably just reference design is very artistically interesting. Revised design does address the potential driver distraction concerns that were brought up, and it also really fits well with the two buildings. The 8th and Marion pedestrian enhancements have been vetted by SDOT and do create consistency along 8th Avenue. We've also checked that they don't include any future efforts by SDOT or other developers to add amenities like bike lanes, etc. The upgrade to the landscaping is attractive and it is additive to the pedestrian experience. And we also did confirm that it is not conflict with the PUDA from the original earlier street vacation. We're just really interested to see how the unplanned goes. So thank you.
Before we start with commissioner questions, we have a number of people who are attending from the community. Is there someone that were you wanting to talk on behalf of the people?
I have a few comments, and we were actually looking at two of us, but I promised that my remarks would be a minute or less.
Nick coordinated.
I have no doubt. Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you. As mentioned earlier, I'm the chair of the Skyline Residents Task Force for the Sky Bridge. As you can imagine, the residents are overjoyed with the dramatic improvement for the quality of their lives, which the Sky Bridge will bring. In addition, though, many Skyline residents are actively engaged in the broader First Hill community of which Skyline is a part. And thus, they're also excited about the proposed public benefits accompanying the Sky Bridge. As you know from the presentation that was just made, these will include additional safety features for pedestrians, as well as amenities that will enhance the street experience for the whole neighborhood. One of our residents, Bob Terrell, who wasn't able to be with us here today in person, but he may be attending online, I'm not sure. He's very active in the First Hill Improvement Association. He's been working with it on the proposed wayfinding signage package for the Park Loop project. Other resident groups which were mentioned are excited about the proposed improvements to the area, abutting the sidewalk along 8th Avenue between Columbia and Cherry, which include the public art features as well as furnishings where the public can enjoy a peaceful setting and relax. All in all, the residents are very pleased with the entire public benefits package, and we hope that you are too. Thank you for working with us on this.
Well, I'm the other speaker here today. I'm Putt Barber, and I'm also a member of Doug's task force. We are very pleased with the progress to date, as Doug has already said. There's a palpable feeling of excitement within Skyline about the prospect of a new sky bridge. The enhancement on 8th Avenue and Columbia Street will add an attractive element to our neighborhood, extending the grassy area and adding accessible seating alongside sculptural elements will make this area even more welcoming. And I can't help mentioning that the addition of pet relief areas will enhance the streetscape for both the humans and their companions in an important way. Personally, though, I'm most excited about the way we've been cooperating with the First Hill Improvement Association to develop and refine the concept of the park loop. When completed, this signposted town route will connect two important amenities on First Hill Park and Yesler Park. These are amenities that are probably little recognized by many of the residents in other parts of the city. If you ever have a chance to go to Yesler Park on a sunny day, you will enjoy the chance to sit for a while and watch the children playing in that creatively designed playground. Calling attention to the handsome architecture of both newer and older buildings on First Hill, explaining some of the quirks and corners of 8th Avenue, of Cherry Street, of Columbia Street, and of 9th Avenue, and doing so in a way that defines a route that connects these two urban oases adds to the experience for visitors and residents alike. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to express our support for the public benefits that will complement the Sky Bridge and add a great deal to our neighborhood.
Thank you. Oh, we have until noon. I think we've got a good amount of time to do our business. Could you,
Michael?
Yeah.
Joshua Michael.
Oh, I'm sorry, Josh.
I think that just one other quick HC comment
Yeah.
on that side is, I think we see this as an opportunity to help collaboratively develop a community-driven signage program. Now that Seamless Yellow exists, looking forward to working together to help create a system that complements Seamless Yellow rather than competes with it. So yeah, we're looking forward to working with Mark and Phil's student Matthews to help develop that system.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I live on the north side of First Hill, so I wasn't prepared to speak, but after hearing this, I'm really excited. I'm a member of the First Hill Improvement Association, the Urban Design Committee, and I'm also on the Citizen Advisory Council for the Harbor View Inn. So I care about my neighborhood, and I initially was concerned about pedestrian safety and the health of the community. This has made, and with the rapid growth that First Hill has gone through over the last decade, and with the rapid ride becoming a mainstay as far as transportation through First Hill, I was concerned that we were losing our identity as a neighborhood. And I really applaud Skyline for this project because they're really showing the neighborhood what we could do. And it's providing a lot of public space that we don't have a lot of anymore. It's improving the safety so it doesn't become a corridor for transportation. It's rapid right. A lot of transportation has been moving to the small streets where we walk every day. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in that. And the artwork's fabulous and the public space recommendation is fabulous. So the other part of First Hill likes it a lot.
Thank you. Anyone else before we transition?
Okay.
Molly, take it away.
All right. And at that, it looks like we have 39 minutes. And we are going to start with commissioner questions and we'll go around the room. We'll start online. So we'll start with Kevin and go to Phoebe. And then we'll start with Susan in the room. Did I get everyone online? Is it Kevin and Phoebe? Do we have any other commissioners online?
Yeah, thanks, Molly. I'll start. And I really don't have any questions. The only question I came in with was at the subcommittee meeting, we asked the residents who attended that meeting whether they were pleased with the design of the bridge. And the answer was yes. I presume that's still true. But so my question coming in was were the residents at the First Hill Improvement Association pleased with the public benefit package? And I think that's already been answered by the public testimony. So I don't have any other questions. Thanks.
And Phoebe, do you have any questions?
I don't really, actually. I think that was kind of well put by Kevin, but yeah, I didn't really generate any, so thanks.
Great. Subin, do you have any questions?
I just had kind of a minor question out of curiosity. I assume you have to manage roof stormwater on the bridge. Is that going to go back to the building and tie into storm drains in the building, or have you guys gotten to that, started thinking about that at all?
That's the plan right now. We're draining it to either side,
Okay.
splitting it, and then going to drain it in both the buildings.
Okay, so it's going to kind of just internally drain somewhere in the building. Okay, I'm just curious because it's.
Where are you going with that, Ruben?
Yeah, just like it's going to be a long run, obviously, a lot of falls. So I'm just just curious how that's going to, if that's potentially affects the way the the proportions of the bridge or how that's drawn, because I could see that being kind of a big driver. If you have a big pipe trying to make a certain amount of horizontal travel all the way across. So. And then the other thought was, could it actually, and I guess I was curious if it was going to be some kind of exterior downspout. So it sounds like not. But if it did have to be, I could see it maybe being some sort of, rain garden feature or something like that. Just
we're taking on board
architectural curiosities. And then I guess the other just maybe slightly related question is that I think the way it's rendered now, I mean, I know we're still very early, but it still feels a little bit like it's kind of crashing into both buildings, that like there's a lot of resolution I feel like that still needs to happen with all the different part, like there's kind of like a beam kind of cutting down into the storefront below. So I guess just making sure there's enough kind of budget and, just ability to address kind of how you might have to do some cleanup on the buildings too, right? To make sure it all works well together and looks good, feels resolved. So maybe that's just more of a recommendation than a question, but and I'm sure you'll get there. So that's it for me.
Caitlin, do you have any questions?
I thought that was a great presentation and I have no question.
Okay, and then I think you answered my question, which was about whether we're comfortable with the 3% grade at the location of benches moving across, but you vetted that with the residents for being able to kind of stop, turn off their wheels, and be able to sit on walkers in those locations as well. Okay, I'll pass this, Brian.
I also had the rain question, so I'm going to cross that off. Improvements along 8th Avenue to me seem less public and more campus. I'm wondering if you guys considered improvements on other blocks, or perhaps not on the avenue, because the avenues are rather nice, but the streets are not so. And I'm wondering if what did you look at in terms of street improvements and anywhere that is maybe more externally facing, not basically the heart of the campus, right? Like,
Yeah, it's a fair question. We are encouraged to be on our property or near it as a policy.
Yeah.
And not go straight too far away, which we have done with the intersection improvement. And you could say that interpretive wayfinding is doing that too. Be stretched across quite a few blocks within the neighborhood. So, right, policy typically has us wanting to be on our side or right at direct frontage. And so we're taking over, both the right of way and that. And that's there we knew we could impact.
Did you consider Columbia at all? Because that's the Columbia 2 blocks that are yours.
On the hill climb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be walker accessible. It might not be for your residents, but it will be much more impactful to the neighborhood, I think, because those streets are particularly not nice.
Yeah.
Whereas APAB is rather leafy and green and nice already.
Yeah, there's not much of a setback there. I mean, there's a smaller planting strip. It is on a very steep street. The other side has been improved with at least a portion of it with the Brimstone 800 Columbia.
Yeah.
The setback that was improved, and I don't mean to meander from your question, is the Cherry Street hill climb, which is actually quite wonderful. And it provides hill climb assist in the way of stairs and resting points and a sidewalk. We don't quite have that same opportunity. It's really it's landscape. We don't have the opportunity to put in the artwork and the seating like we do on this deep setback, that 30-foot setback. On 8. And that's why we selected that area, because there was room to do it. And most importantly, it's on the park-to-park loop, which is really preferred place to put something for the neighborhood, for the First Hill Improvement Association. So those are the reasons why. It is a big block. I don't disagree with you there. 9th Avenue, again, has a car court and presents less opportunity in the right of way and in the setback as well. And same thing again with Columbia. Sorry, I don't have a street view for you. I could pull that open.
I mean, everybody can get to Google Maps.
Yeah. And I should mention too that the park-to-park loop does use the hill climb on Cherry. The importance of Cherry is that it connects, of course, underneath the freeway back into downtown. So it is used by students and the medical, staff from the medical institutions and neighborhoods to get to and from downtown.
Yeah. Okay. And then I didn't understand the legislation comment in terms of timing of two tasks. Maybe that's my ignorance.
I'm going to let Amy speak to that because that is her expertise.
What is that?
So, all of this work, I can work on site. I cannot send legislation to the city council because it includes the public benefit proposal until this process is complete. And so but if there's sort of general agreement and working out the details, I can do those concurrently as your holding subcommittees. Does that answer your question?
We wouldn't want, I think the scale and size of the proposal for wayfinding is generally smaller than the remaining portion. We would have to, if you do agree with the idea that a subcommittee should be held in lieu of full commission meeting, it allows that to proceed, but provides us that we have to complete that work before the council can do their work. That makes sense.
The council has to give them the full permission for them to go into potential construction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
This is a practical matter, but I
just didn't understand.
No, and Brian, the way it works is when we go to council, they give us thumbs up. That's draft until the bridge is complete. And then Amy walks through and says, yeah, it's done. Then we have to go
That's
back.
the part I don't.
That's
Sorry.
street vacations.
Oh, yeah.
Term permits.
That's right.
Council approves the term permit ordinance that basically get construction permits and break ground and start. So there, that is the final step, so.
And the construction permit for the bridge. Then they won't be, then at ordinance, they actually, that's when they pay any fees, everything that needs to be installed, and that they sign up at the end, so they get a concept approval to proceed with permits.
Okay, those are my questions.
And the timing within which this needs to go to council from the project perspective is when?
So schedule-wise, the preference is to get this ready this year. Council's very busy, and subcommittee, or not subcommittee, the transportation committee, they're not going to take up this legislation this year. So we're trying to line it up for the very first thing next year for them to consider, with probably some other items, obviously. But so we're really trying to position it for success early next year. So that means that we have the draft legislation this year, if you can enable us to do that by paralleling versus waiting for another, and I know you're very busy. So it's like waiting for another, full commission meeting. If you want to condition us, take us to a subcommittee, like we've already been through once with you, would be our preference in ask.
Okay, and the timing of, I heard specific seasonal timing based on the tree pruning. And that is within the winter is the intent for.
Correct.
From the arborist perspective.
So probably February, March, and that's right when we're going to be in front of council. So if those two things can work together, it gives us confidence to do the pruning and prep for the construction, the erection of the Sky Bridge, if you will, which is quite a process.
Yes.
Right. It's a lot of street use permits involved. Kevin can appreciate this. And yeah, it's complicated.
Okay. Okay, so it looks like we're good on commissioner questions. So we will move into deliberation. We're going to focus our comments and deliberation around the public benefit package. So we'll do that in the order that they appear in the public benefit matrix. So we'll start with open space activation improvements on 8th and landscape. Then public art, integrated artwork by Nori. Then pedestrian safety at 8th and Marion, and then wayfinding from to Park Loop signage. At that, I will open it to commissioner comments related to open space activation and the improvements on 8th Avenue. So that landscape along 8th Avenue.
Molly, I'll jump in if that's okay. I generally really support this. Has been mentioned actually today. The First Hill doesn't have a lot of park open space, so I think the streets offer a really good opportunity for improving open space. My concern about this type of public benefit is always, does it feel like the public can use it? Is it available for the public? That is, from what I've heard from the presentation, that's certainly the intent. So I just think it needs to be, that needs to be executed. I don't know, Molly, if we need to state that as a recommendation or whatever, but I think it's going in a really good direction. I think it's a very appropriate public benefit. So I think there's the devil's in the details, but I definitely support it as a concept.
And I'll add to that because I do think that the team has been responsive to a comment that we had earlier, which was really pulling those improvements that were happening on the private property side and pulling those out into the furnishing zone and the landscape zone between vehicles and the sidewalk. I think that's a major part of what makes me feel that it is feeling more public, is that you're really, as a pedestrian, moving through the space rather than seeing a private and a public realm. And so continuing to detail that such that it continues to feel that you're moving through a park space that is for you, such that the street side tells you that the building side is for you, I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in as well. I agree. I mean, I think when you see the duality that it's on either side, so that kind of that sense of public space is on both sides makes sense. And then I was just going to add a nod to the planting. I think, you know, in a way, a spatial allotment on the property side is sort of similar. You know, you still have the standards of the lights there, and then the carving out of seating there. It's more so obviously in the new scheme. But I think the biggest change, like well, this is all a change, but like another additional big change is the planting, and the tone of the existing planting is, uh, basically old school, and it needs to be revitalized. And I think the tone of this kind of planting then does feel more public, and it feels like you're in kind of a different kind of public realm, whereas the other one is kind of more of a defensive space in terms of how it was planted and hedged up. So I think just in that, kind of the openness and that sense of kind of free flow across that whole space visually, that's emphasized by planting is successful and makes it feel more public too.
Maybe I'll offer the counterpoint to this. This is one of the nicer spaces in this area already. And I think my opinion is if we truly wanted to improve things, we could go around and improve the lesser spaces with greater effect than improving some of the nicer spaces. But I think that should be taken a look at a little bit.
Are you particularly concerned about Columbia over Cherry? Or both?
Columbia. Columbia specifically, since it doesn't already have the hill climb, and that place is already beautiful.
Between 7th and 8th and 8th and 9th, because obviously they've done the portion of the Cherry that abuts their property, Columbia, that abuts their property with the new development. So it's a segment between 7th and the alley.
Yeah.
And then along 8th. Is that something that you maybe like a recommendation for, but not a subcommittee, nothing formal, or what are you thinking about?
I don't think it's anything formal. And honestly, one of the best named groups I've ever heard of is late bloomers. So well named, creative, and maybe they can tackle this challenge, but like, I don't know. It seems like
it's a landscape treatment. Maybe you're thinking about, sorry to be that.
Maybe.
Jack, but
it seems like we're taking the best thing and making it a little better. And I fully applaud that. But like, if we're actually thinking about neighborhood improvement, I would look for the worst things and improve them.
And I think it would be quite nice if the team is able to identify those potential opportunities. So even if it's that late bloomers are implementing landscape improvements along those areas, having your team, Mark, look at what are those potential improvements that could occur over time in those surrounding areas. I think that
would be really nice.
that would give you the kind of two levels of vetting it as a design team as a holistic piece. Because I do agree. I don't know that I agree that the public benefits exclusively happen in the location of the project, and there often are really successful public benefits that will extend beyond a project. And so really thinking where is the surrounding need, where are the challenging points, so that we're not necessarily defining those in the room, but rather with your level of study of the project, identifying where are the pinch points and challenges that could use a little extra attention. That gets to your point, Brian.
Much more eloquently than I tried to say it. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay, does anyone else have any other comments on that 8th Avenue landscape? Okay. At that, let's move to public art. So integrated artwork by Nori.
I guess I have a very similar question. We're sort of concentrating this in this one little space. Is there a way to spread this wider, maybe not as dense, but like around the whole block and not just the courtyard, or I don't know. Again, I do not want to get in the way of pushing this project forward, right? But I want us to consider the neighborhood more than the two faces of the same owner that face this block. That makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And I'm just trying to think how, if that's similar, are there any individual key locations where something like this could occur over time? So as we're looking at, are there landscape opportunities for late bloomers? If Mark is looking and identifying locations, is there a place where one of these art pieces could occur around a corner to pull your?
I think obvious things directly to the right in this image is the hill climb and the other part of the park that is quite nice. And yet they are now going to be very different things, right? Like one of them will have quite colorful seating and art, and the other one will be more organic and stairs and, right? Like, how do you make it one thing rather than now we have two parks next to each other? Phoebe, come on.
Phoebe, go ahead.
No, I mean, I was gonna say before you, what I want to say, I was going to say that I think it's kind of part of the same commentary that does make sense to say if there is a plan over time to kind of have that relationship that improves multiple blocks. I don't know if I agree that it's a problem that this is different. But I think that's always a good point, right? Like why, a hill climb has a very like specific relationship, right, topographically. So, is it forced if you were to expand them? But I mean, I think at the same time that could be explored, right? I think but I would like to say about the art piece, I think its primary success is that there's multiple of them. I don't think that stands alone, those objects on their own. And so I think if you start watering that down, that will not feel like a presence, and it will start to feel just like a piece here and a piece there, and then they will kind of feel out of place and I think forlorn. So I think the massing is really appropriate and important. And so if there's ideas of expanding that, if that were something that the late bloomers can kind of continue to further, it should be, as an amassment. And kind of really like cohesive approaches as opposed to like dabbling.
I completely agree with that, Phoebe. I think because when I do look at the hill climb component, the fact that I see as soon as I descend those stairs that I see art immediately, that might be doing what we want. Exactly. That might be doing what we want in terms of inviting us into that art space. So I guess if you are exploring what those opportunities are, just assessing, is it helpful to have them somewhere else, or is it helpful to have them concentrated?
Can I just add something to the conversation, which is, it's not our project, it's for Sale Improvement Association, we are working on it, it's the Park to Park Loop. It is seeking other opportunities to find these moments as well. So that we are part of that loop. And I think we have to pull the lens, I just offer that up, that we're actively working on looking at areas. Some of they've already captured in the right of way where they have pavement to park opportunities. Some have been realized already. So this is a part of a bigger picture that we're looking for improvements, that this project won't be able to solve all of those. We're a part of it. And I just offer that up because I think that's important to think about that high level view here, where we're talking about landscape, art, lighting, pedestrian safety advancements, things like that.
Do any commissioners have any other thoughts on that or more thoughts about the public art? Okay. At that, let's move to pedestrian safety at 8th and Marion.
Molly, I think, this is Kevin, I think this is very appropriate. public benefit, mirroring what's already happened at 8th and Columbia. And I think, and this is partly talking to Mark's point that he just made. I mean, this is a really good example of an offsite public benefit that is really effective and I think works to enhance not just this project. It will enhance this project in the a desire to calm 8th Avenue, but it will also improve the neighborhood overall. So I think this is a great public benefit proposal.
Anyone else have any comments on this?
No, just agree. I think there's all the merits for this. And I do think that speaks to going a little past the bounds of your site.
I agree as well. Okay, if there are no more on that, we'll move to wayfinding park to park loop signage.
I think it does make sense to have a subcommittee. They do have ample time before they're going to the council. I'm confident that those issues are going to be addressed, but I think it would be helpful in particular to have Amy and maybe some people at SDOT who are working on it as well, have them in the room, it's documented. Because the goal is how are we making this standardized for later people who will be hopefully implementing it. So I don't think it's such a terrible thing when there's time to do it at a subcommittee.
Okay. Are we all comfortable with that as a recommendation and coming to subcommittee?
Yeah, I would
Specifically
concur
for
with that. I mean,
signage.
the discussions on wayfinding have gone on for years. It's the devil's in the details about how it's implemented and when, et cetera. So I think it's a very appropriate topic for a subcommittee.
Yeah, even individual aspects of this being advanced is great, right? Like if it was just interpretive signs, that would be a huge benefit. And to say that like the historical markers are, you know, represented and sponsored by our, you know, that generation is an incredible thing. Yeah, maybe no problems letting that run.
And I think we have capacity in early December, and that's probably a good time.
Okay. Any other comments on that park to park loop that you want to put in here rather than in that subcommittee? Okay, well, at that, I want to open it back up to our presenter to see if there are any issues that you feel we misunderstood or any notes you want to add before we vote.
I don't think so. I mean, an interesting discussion again about more at the policy level of public benefits about how they really should be rooted in the community. I think your point, Brian, is a good one. And everything we're trying to do, that we're proposing, is rooted in the community. And I realize it's on-site. We have to be able to control certain things. And when we get in the right of way, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult, challenging. And so whenever I'm in front of you, I want to be absolutely 100% confident we can do what we're saying. And I can really support that statement with this package and with our partners at the city and within the community. So I feel very good about that. Anytime I can go off site, I think I was one of the first, our firms are to actually do that, because that's really community driven, to do something on your site. And I might be going off my own diatribe, but I think it's important because this project, and I think you recognize that the the commission has, that we're doing both. And we're really trying to stretch ourselves into the community. Unfortunately, and I get big shout out to First Hill Improvement Association. Without their support, I think this is a much different project. Skyline's a much different place. And so we're very much embedded in them, and I appreciate their support as well as SDOT, between Amy and the urban designers, Joshua and Ian, have been very supportive. And we look forward to coming back and sharing with you a more detailed design with the interpretive finding package. Thank you for letting me share that moment.
Okay, so we want to thank the project team for the presentation of the public benefit package and for the development that we've seen since our last full commission meeting and subcommittee meeting. Overall, the commission appreciates that you have, as you said, provided public benefits within the bounds of your project and extended those public benefits beyond the bounds of your project. We also appreciate the way that you have focused on both sides of the sidewalk in those 8 improvements, as well as the less defensive planting sites that are within this expanded landscape. We also appreciate the development of the art to date, as well as the groupings of art that we're seeing in Nori's latest representation. We are also very appreciative of the appropriate public benefit that exists at 8th and Marion. So I will go ahead and add a couple of our recommendations as we move into the action. I did not hear any conditions, or would subcommittee be a condition, Michael? Okay, so we do have one condition, and that condition is for the Park to Park Loop signage, a return to subcommittee alongside Amy and the SDOT team, understanding the timeline considerations that are necessary within that process. So we would like to see that in subcommittee. I think that we'd also like to see, would this be in that subcommittee, would we like to see some of the thinking of the surrounding areas? Commissioners. So we would like to see, Mark, some of your thinking about surrounding areas, what might be appropriate longer term improvements alongside that ongoing Park to Park Loop signage conversation in that subcommittee. A few recommendations that I heard from commissioners as well. I think that one actually encapsulates it. So it is that there are improved considerations of the potential improvements on surrounding streets. Whether that's with the opportunities for the late bloomers to be involved in landscape opportunities, whether that does have any art implications to it. We're interested in a continued study of exactly that. Those were the only recommendations that I heard and conditions that I heard. Commissioners, did I miss any? All right, well, at that, we'll start with Zubin in the room. So we're going to take an action to approve the project in this phase.
Vote to approve with the condition.
I vote to approve with the condition.
I also vote to approve with a condition.
I certainly approve.
And we'll go to Kevin online.
I vote to approve as well, and I appreciate all the work that's the design team have done. And it's also great hearing from the residents in First Hill today. So thank you.
And Phoebe?
Yeah, I too vote to approve. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, project team, and thank you, residents, for coming to join us, as well as First Hill Association and the whole SDOT
Thank you.
crew.
Perfect, thank you.
Commissioners, can you stay on for a minute? Because I was hoping to do the briefing for this afternoon now.
There, Jill just joined too.
Yeah, I asked her to. I'd just rather do it now and then go to lunch.
Oh, I have to go.
Then they can wander.
Ahead of